Yeah.
Areli will lead, folks.
Yeah.
And we'll walk around here.
We'll walk over there.
Me parece perfecto.
Diferente a los trabajadores de campo, ¿verdad?
In our mind, what we're thinking is to develop worker-owned cooperatives to create a change and give farm workers another option.
Entonces estamos haciendo el plan de ejidos.
So we are creating a plan of ejidos.
Entonces al último de aquí a 10 años, otros 5 años va a haber 5 casas, 5 familias y van a ser los dueños y esperamos que en ese tiempo haya otras 5 familias comprometidas para ir haciendo más cooperativas,
So our vision is in 5 years there will be 5 owners and their families living here in their own homes with their homes here, and that they will be living and working on this co-op, and that there will be other co-ops with worker owners in other places.
Okay, so thank you for joining this conversation. We wanted to talk about the whole idea of this being a just transition, I guess you could say example of a just transition. You know, we always talk about the just transition. It's a framework, right? It's a framework for thinking about how you're going to, in my opinion, survive capitalism, and in that survival, how you can establish a new way of living. And I think that's the whole point of a just transition, is how do we live better than what we're doing now, and not the way we're living now. As farm workers, we know it's not good right now for us, and for the majority of the farm workers working in agriculture. So for us, the just transition framework is really important to understand the framework. If you understand the framework, then what you're doing to improve your lives makes sense. But it also gives you a base for establishing permanent change, you know, a permanent change to the structures that you're living in.
My name is Edgar. I'm with Familias Unidas por la Justicia. It's an independent farm worker union. We've been involved with Front and Center since the inception, when it was still, communities of color for climate justice here in Washington State. So, you know, this whole process has been really important for us to voice the concerns and the needs of our community. Not only that, but let people know that we have the ability, the knowledge, the power to transform a system into one that's more inclusive and really uplifts the voice of communities that are most impacted by climate and environmental injustice. So, you know, I think this is going to be, Front Centered has been one of the leaders in the state to really push forward an agenda, a progressive agenda for the most marginalized, the people, again, on the front lines, doing a lot of the work, transformative work to change a system that has been built to exclude us a lot of the time. So, and just transition for me means, you know, again, a transition is coming, whether we want it or not. A transition is coming, but it's inevitable. But we want to make sure that justice is included in that transition, and people of color and poor people, working people, all communities that have been impacted the most by a bad system are the ones leading the change and offering up the solution. So that's what a just transition means to me.
How are you? All right. The idea of how this cooperative is going to grow and survive and evolve into the future and be an example of what a just transition might look like for farm workers in Washington State is really, I would say, in our strategic plan, the most important task that we have right now, in the development of the whole concept of organizing worker-owned co-ops, because that we see that as the basically the top of liberation, the top level of liberation, and also what food sovereignty and sovereignty in general, how it can be manifested from those that really need it. And I'm an organizer now, community organizer, starting with the Rainbow Coalition in 1987, and then labor organizing with the United Farm Workers in 1990, and onward until we founded Community to Community here in Bellingham. So the struggle for farm worker justice has been long, and I just started in 1986. Cesar Chavez started way, and Dolores way back in the 60s, right? And not much has changed, even with all of the work that we're doing. It's a hard struggle. So for us, it's really important to have this framework of how we might be able to finally create that kind of shift. So you're sitting on 65 acres of a worker-owned cooperative that is beginning to manifest what that feels like to a farm worker to actually be on a piece of land doing what you want to do with the land and support yourself. It's part of liberation. So I think it's important that you understand the many components of the just transition framework for our organization.
You know, like I said before, if we think 5 years back, none of this was here, right? And similarly to how Ramon said when we were talking to him, like, let's use our imaginations to picture 5 years from now, right? 5 years in the future, what is this land gonna look like, right? Maybe there'll be 4 houses and 4 families living here on the land, right? And a community garden and like kids running around and playing, right? And maybe 10 years from now, there'll be some big trees like providing shade where there's all this sun, right? And as Rosalinda said at the beginning, like, we need support to do that, right? You know, the co-op has big goals for what they want to do with this land. We're working right now to purchase the land that the co-op farms because we don't own it yet, right? We're planning the purchase of new housing here on the land, new infrastructure, different kinds of developments, thinking about how to do things in green ways and different ways that are friendly to the planet and to the environment, you know?
It's going to be different for every group of people. That framework will be your framework. This is our framework, the way that we see it for who we are as a people and what our goals are, the vision that we have for our community. And we invite all of the Just Transition or the front-centered organizations to have that conversation, right? So, you know, being on this land, having this land, and having this land with the Just Transition framework and the framework of worker-owned cooperative model is really important, because you cannot have land ownership in a Just Transition if there is not that kind of autonomy and sovereignty of the workers in the production of whatever product that is. For us, it's food.
How do you guys all know each other?
Oh my goodness.
It's because of our souls were born together.
That's right. We are born together.
I met you guys all separately. Well, you
separately.
were referred, yes.
Yeah.
You. Oh.
Yeah, we all know each other because we're women.
That's
And we know each other because we're women of color. Mm-hmm. We know each other because we are women who believe in racial and social justice. Mm-hmm. And because we're full of fun.
We
They
are.
are. I discovered that.
Traveling. Yeah.
And we all believe that another world is possible.
Yes.
Okay. And we're out. And we're close.
Yeah.